Howdy, and welcome back to the Ineligibles podcast. I am Will Stone. He is Chase Caldwell. He is Hayden Garland. Before we get started, very special congratulations to our very own Hayden Garland for proposing to his ex-girlfriend and now fiance, Alexa Osager.
Future first wife. Thank you.
Future
Thank
first
you.
wife, yes.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that.
Congrats, buddy. I had a grand time celebrating you, so
Yeah.
you should get engaged more often.
You should. We should do that once a year.
Some people are lucky enough to get engaged once. Some are lucky enough to even do it 2 or 3 times. I don't know which one I am yet. Yeah.
Only
I've
time
got the
will
one.
tell.
Got the not one knocked out, but
Yeah.
yeah, I was super, super excited. I mean, I'm super pumped that all y'all came out and had such a good time. Wasn't really worried about it, but we've been talking about going to Round Top for so long, and good to see all my friends come out, all of her friends, and both of our families came out, and so it was a grand old time, and yeah, I'm just super thankful to have the friend group that I have and the fiance that I have now.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually very thankful that her friends, at the least, they didn't mind us. At the most, they liked us. But because I told Brittany going into the weekend, I was like, her friends are gonna hate us. I'll tell you that right now. But the two friend groups actually melded together pretty well, so that's always a good sign. And at the wedding in a couple years or a year from now, 14 months, whatever it is.
Yeah.
We'll have some familiarity with the other side of the aisle. So,
well, I took a little bit of inspiration from the way you and Brittany did things. Got everybody together and just threw one big shebang for the engagement, and then friend groups kind of just melded from there and haven't split up since then. So,
yep,
we'll see
that's the way to do it. I've got to commend you on the actual moment. You were cool as a cucumber. Like, there was no nervousness, like you weren't fidgety or antsy. You just, hey, you were walking kind of fast. You left all of us in the dust.
Well, okay. I'm going to
Which you're probably
myself.
Supposed to. You were probably supposed to do that.
Exactly. I was like, I'm intentionally going to get ahead of y'all. I had that planned in my head, but I didn't realize that there were more people coming. I was just like, well, I know people are supposed to be hiding up around there, and we're missing half the group, and I don't know where people are, but we were the last ones at the house. So I was like, I assume everybody's where they're supposed to be. Let's get this show on the road. I got places to be and ladies to get engaged to.
I was told to follow you, and so I was waiting in the car next to your truck, waiting for you to get out, and then I was gonna follow you over there, and then I see I see Cole pull out onto the road in front of me, and I realized that you were in the front seat. And I was like, oh crap. So we hauled trying to get there, and then I was so concerned because I didn't really listen to the directions, so I wasn't sure where I wasn't supposed to stand. So I was just hiding the entire time.
But it was I was nice, calm, and cool, but I leading up to that moment, if you didn't notice, I was taking pulls of Tito's all morning, so I was kind of calming myself down with that. But up to that moment, I was just like, all right, I got this in my head. I'm not giving any speech. She's gonna say yeah, but let's just go ahead and get this thing knocked out. Neither one of us are really probably gonna remember what I say anyways, so get up there, do the thing, and got it done. And then the crazy part about it was like I said, I only saw half the group was walking behind us. I thought y'all were intentionally walking a little slow, and I was like, okay, they got it. Brittany's managing the group. Keep, stay back. Let me get this, and did the thing. And then all of a sudden I look up, and people start coming out of the woodworks, man. People are exiting vehicles. People were crawling out of buildings and behind trees. And I was like, oh my God, they were here.
Popping up out of the fountain.
Yeah. Shout out to the entire town of Round Top for knowing to hide. There was nobody else out there.
Except for the landscapers, which not mysteriously, they just stopped working all of a sudden as soon as we started pulling up, because one of my buddies from Round Top went up to him and told him what was going down, and told him hey, when you see some people, just get out the way. So
That's awesome. I did not know
Good
that.
stuff all around. Yeah, for sure.
Well, good deal, man. We're super excited for you, and great time was had by all on that weekend.
Very nice.
But turning our attention to college football, it feels good to be back in the studio. I don't know about you guys, but it feels like it's only been a couple weeks, but it feels like it's been like months. And like when we were sitting down here talking in the pre-show, it felt good just to be sitting here and back in this space again.
Yeah, there's something to be said to just like make it a point to be on here and spend some time, quality time
with the boys.
The 3 best friends that anybody can have.
Well, speaking of some not so best friends, Texas and Oklahoma will be joining the SEC in 2024. The news dropped last week. After a week prior to that, they came out and said that they would not be joining in 24, that it'd be 2025 because they could not work out a deal. Well, a week later, they announced, hey, we worked out a deal. We're each going to pay $50 million to get out of the Big 12 and join the SEC in 2024. Initial thoughts, reactions, gut responses here.
Let's go.
I figured it'd happen. I'm excited. I mean, I can't wait for them to come over. So
yeah, it's like, especially with it being inevitable, like if it wasn't going to be 24, it was going to be 25 anyway. Like,
yeah,
let's just go ahead and get it on. I mean, there was no point in I mean, I guess unless you're the Big 12, you wanted to keep that inventory, but on our side and for Texas and OU themselves, like they're trying to get her as soon as they can. They're recruiting off of joining this league that we're in.
Oh, sure.
And they're the freshmen that they just signed only have to do one more year in the Big 12, and then they're in the big leagues. So I think from an A&M perspective, it works out pretty well because I think Texas could be pretty good this year. Not that like I'd love to play them this year, but I think ideally in 24 you're going to have third year of Connor Wigman, hopefully. Like and everything I'm saying is assuming the wheels don't come completely off this season. Like even if we go like 8-4, which I would hate, like even if that, like you still can keep things held together. Just you can't do another 5-7, but if that is the case, if things are held together, you should go into 24 pretty strong. I mean, that 2022 class, the guys that are still here, the majority of the guys from that class are still here. They're going to be juniors looking towards the NFL. If this had waited until 25, I kind of would have hated that because I doubt Connor's here in 25. I have no idea, which of the other guys in that class will still be around. The class we just signed is pretty good, but it's not, up to the standard that we'd set in years prior.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this works out best for us, to be quite honest. I mean, I think we could be in a really strong spot. They could be in a pretty decent spot in that year as well. But if this game's on Thanksgiving, I mean, it's going to set up to be like record-breaking viewership on that game.
Oh, no doubt about it. I mean, you knew that was eventually going to happen anyways, even 10 years ago whenever we played for the last time. It's like how many times has George Strait played for the last time in Houston? Like same idea, like
I saw him at Cowboy Stadium on the Cowboy Rides Away tour.
Did you? I was that the one that they opened the stadium with? I was there whenever they opened the stadium. It was George and Reba and Blake Shelton of all people.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it was inevitable that the game was going to come back. It's inevitable that when the game does come back, it's going to be a huge, huge game. What I'm interested to see is what the schedule is going to look like. I definitely think that game needs to be on Thanksgiving. I mean, we'd be doing a huge disservice to the game as a whole if we didn't do that. But where does that put LSU on our schedule?
Right.
And that's, in some ways, I kind of like that because then, I don't know. Maybe it's just recency bias or not recency bias, but just thinking about battered Aggie syndrome, maybe of just having that looming LSU at the end of the schedule every single year.
Right.
It was. I mean, I do very much consider LSU to be one of our rivals. I just, it's a different feeling with them. It was always just kind of like, can we do it this year? And I don't know. With Texas, it's gonna be one of those games that's like, it's gonna be like Texas and OU always is. You could have one
Yeah.
terrible, terrible team and one really, really good team, and you still have no idea what the outcome is going to be, because it's just a different feeling surrounding the game altogether.
I mean, we sucked last year, like full stop. LSU won the West, and we kind of kicked their ass in the last game of the year. Like
Yeah.
that typically isn't supposed to happen, but you know, when we first joined and they kind of had a streak, I think it was like 6 or 7 in a row of beating us. I would look forward to that game every year and be like, hey, are we finally going to break through and win this thing? And when we did, it was, you know, 7 overtimes and, you know, coaches were getting punched and, you know, and Jimbo's nephew's getting punched. And it's just kind of, you know, pandemonium on the field. And then, you know, we go over there and they got Joe Burrow and they kick our ass. And then, you know, we come back here COVID year and beat them. And they beat us in a thriller in Baton Rouge. It's been a lot of back and forth the last, you know, 4 or 5 years, but I'm a little sad to see that go, but I probably won't be for very long. Like after that first game against Texas, it's going to be like, okay, it's back on. Like this feels right. But I do wonder like where LSU falls, because on the bright side of all this, the biggest bright side is we don't play Alabama every year anymore. Like that monkey's off our back. Like, and what's probably going to happen to combat that is I bet you get Alabama one year and Georgia the next. So you're probably going to play one juggernaut, you know, every year, in addition to, you know, the other 8 SEC teams that you have to play.
Sure. They haven't announced how exactly they're going to do it yet, have they? Like pods?
Not
and
officially.
Stuff? Okay.
Yeah, not officially. There's been murmurs. At this point, I'd be pretty shocked if it's not a 9-game conference schedule with you know, like the 3-6 model that we've talked about. And I think A&M's teams would be Texas, LSU, and Mississippi State every year. I believe like a lot of Aggies want Arkansas, and I do too, but
yeah,
you got to think of it, what's the best for everybody. Like Arkansas, they're kind of a rival, but you know, they actually have a pretty big rivalry with Texas. Those two teams hate each other.
Yeah.
And they're geographically close to Oklahoma. You know, that's a good fit. And then maybe Missouri for them too. But I'm willing to sacrifice Arkansas to, you know, have Texas, LSU, and Mississippi State or whoever it is.
Yeah, I feel like if you're Arkansas, you would want LSU, Missouri, Texas. Because Missouri and Arkansas are pretty big rivals, right? Or am I making that up?
They've played each other every year since we started. Like they're together like us and South Carolina are together. But they're closer in geography, and it's actually more of a more natural rivalry.
Yeah.
And it's tough because Oklahoma's not.
I just can't really look at Mizzou and be like, yeah, who's their rival? You know?
Yeah. Well, it's Kansas, and you know they're not joining the conference anytime soon. I do wonder, like this is off topic, but like big picture, does Mizzou leave and like do they go somewhere else? Because I just don't think they're. I don't know if they love being in the SEC, and if I had to pick a team that's not going to make it, you know, the next century, it's probably them. I think, like, I bet if Kansas were to get picked up by the Big Ten, Mizzou would be out the door trying to go join there. I'm just speculating, but
yeah, they don't seem to have the culture fit. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you're in the SEC, why would you want to leave? You know, Now, if the
Getting
SEC
paid.
falls down, I mean, I'm sure it's the dawn of the SEC being the big dog is going to eventually cycle out. We since we've been in the SEC, we like to pretend like the SEC has always been the big dog, but it just hasn't. In the 90s, the Big 12 was the big dog, and before that, you had the Big 8. And it just so I mean, one of these days the SEC isn't going to be the conference, and maybe you see that happen then. But I mean, there's too much money in it that I could never. I mean, if you ask me, are they an SEC team? I would probably say no, and it has nothing to do with whether they're a good school or good team or
Sure.
anything. They just don't seem to fit in with the rest of the group,
Yeah.
But I don't know that they would ever willingly leave unless the Big Ten came calling to him and really made it a sweet deal for him.
Yeah. But
Could we
I
force
think
them out? Or
see
force them out
if
with a replacement, for instance.
Like Hazel out?
Sure.
like regulate them. Yeah, don't get me started on my not regulate, relegate,
Relegate.
not regulate.
No,
We're gonna
not
regulate how
necessarily.
many players you can sign.
I'm just
No,
saying, let's say if hypothetically if Tulane wanted to get back into the SEC and we wanted Tulane back in because Tulane became a better brand and yada yada yada, is there a world that exists where we say, okay, by Mizzou, Tulane's it now after some sort of negotiation period or something?
Well, I'll take
is
that a
that
step further.
Possibility?
What's interesting to me is with this entire new world is about money and matchups and brands and all of that sort of thing. So at what point do the big dogs in the SEC and Big Ten get together and be like, hey, we can kick out the Marylands and the Vanderbilts of the world and just have all the freaking sorry. Just have all the brands like hey, we'll go pluck, Florida State and Miami from the ACC, and then it's just, hey, it's like it was in the 90s all over again. Like we got Notre Dame, we got Florida State, all the Big Ten blue bloods and the SEC schools, and by South Carolina, by Ole Miss, by Rutgers, that's actually a big fear of mine. I would hate that very much, but I would not put it past them at this point.
Well, and that's where, my thinking in terms of would the SEC ever expand past what we have, I don't see why if it did, I don't see why you wouldn't go after Florida State and Miami or Clemson.
Yeah.
I would think less in terms of, hey, let's kick Ole Miss out and add somebody in, and more in terms of let's go get a couple more of those, maybe North Carolina as well,
Right.
And just, take that whole region in. So I think that's going to come one day. And to some degree, we're going way off topic here, or I'm about to take us way off topic here.
Let's do it.
To some degree, conferences aren't always going to last. I feel like conferences will go away one day. Eventually, I feel like that playoff is going to expand and expand until it's a real playoff, until it just becomes everybody plays everybody across the country, and you're trying to schedule as many different teams. Because we've already gone national, and A&M likes to say, "Oh, we're national now, and we're international." Every team is. That's just the nature of our world. We're more connected than ever before. So,
Right.
It's nothing for some of that. Obviously, all of that really stemmed in the past from geography. Still would be very difficult for Washington to play Florida, but they can meet in the middle. So I don't know. it's a possibility. I could be dead
Yeah.
wrong. It wouldn't shock me if I was dead wrong, but I don't know.
See, I
I
think
could see that really diminishing the conferences down the road.
yeah. I think what you're talking about is kind of what I see happening, to where it's, instead of conferences, it's just different leagues. Like, it's
Mhm.
going to end up looking like European soccer, to where, you know, at least it'll start out as like, hey, all the, you know, name programs that make all the money or generate all the revenue and have all the viewers form their own thing. They're like, hey, you know, every year we'll kick out our worst team and add the best team from the lower level, and do it that way. Um, or they could just say, hey, we we're the teams everybody wants to watch. We're gonna have a little mini NFL where, you know,
That's what I was about to say.
we're our own thing, and the Baylors and like Colorados of the world are
Mhm.
in their own, you know, wasteland of a football league, and
And that's the
what I
thing.
don't like.
If you have you have two 16 team power conferences, I mean, it's no different than having the NFC and AFC. You know, same amount of teams, 32 teams, right?
Yeah, and
Um,
I'm really interested to see the very first. So we talked about it pre-show. I haven't mentioned it here yet, but 2024 is going to be a ridiculous and chaotic year in college football, because Texas and OU are going to join the SEC. USC and UCLA will join the Big Ten that season, and it's the first season of the 12-team playoff format. So just massive changes across the sport, and I'm so interested to see what that first 12-team field looks like, because my assumption is, so like, they're taking the top ranked, or the top 6 ranked conference champs. I bet the other 6 are all Big Ten and SEC teams. I'd be shocked if
Mhm.
it's not. Like, it's going to be, you know, conference champs and Bama, A&M, Michigan, USC, so on and so forth, that fill it
yeah,
out.
yeah, I agree with you there. It's going to be really cool to see that. I mean,
Oh
it's
yeah.
cool. At the end of the day, when the change starts, you know, you might as well embrace it, enjoy it.
Hmm.
I mean, and that comes from me as a football fan. Yes, I am an Aggie fan at the end of the day, and so I am an Aggie in the sense that there is a resentment towards other schools that we play and that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, I do love the big brands. You know, I like to
Oh
see
yeah.
you know, all of these teams play, and sure, I do like to see the little guys play too, you know. But I I love nothing more than seeing two like really good brands go head to head, you know. So
Yeah.
um I think I don't know. I think we're all in just a holding pattern where we're like, is it going to be good for the sport? Is it going to be bad for the sport? Because it
Yeah.
absolutely can go both ways. Um, but you know, as far as the SEC is concerned, there's going to be enough changes there that you know, haven't been fleshed out yet. Like we just said, the pods and how that's going to look, what scheduling is
Right.
going to look like. Um, I'm excited for that. And I think a lot of the reason why Texas and OU got out a year early is because of the teams coming in. Because all the new Big 12 teams, they'll be there this year, right? Or
Yes.
24. Okay. So
This season.
yeah, so that new influx of teams. I always go back to SEC Ready by Texags when
Yeah.
President Bowen at the time he was talking about it, and I think it was him. It may have been somebody else, but it's in that show, and they're talking about, you always think about football and combining football, but it's all the other sports too. You know,
Oh my
it's all
God.
the track and um, you know, baseball, softball, you know, all that kind of stuff. That's got to be really convoluted when you have that weird offshoot of a year. And I feel like that was probably the card that Texas and OU played to some degree. I mean, have they released the Big 12 schedules yet?
Yes, they have, and I wanted to bring that up because I feel like Texas kind of got dealt a pretty favorable hand. Like they don't play Cincinnati and they don't play UCF. They play BYU at home, but they do have to go to Houston, which is interesting, and like that'll be, something fun to watch. But all in all, like their schedule is cake if you look at it. But I wanted to see them get sent to Provo, like
Yeah.
or sent to Cincinnati or something like that. But it's fine. I mean,
Well, I think that's partially because of the longevity of the Big 12. Like the Big 12 has to do that for themselves. Like they need, as much as it would be great to send them to Provo, they've got to get it set up to where moving forward, the teams that are still going to be there have that home and home getting started, so that definitely plays a part in it. But
yeah,
they have a pretty easy schedule. I don't know. I'm not gonna say it's that easy. I mean, oh wait, I'm looking. Sorry, I'm looking at their 22 schedule.
I was about to say, you're looking at our schedule.
I was like, they still have to play Bama, like.
Yeah, well, they do play at Bama, which is going to be tough for sure. What's interesting is they don't play Oklahoma State next year in their last season of the Big 12.
Yeah,
which I guess they had to replace them with one of the new teams.
Yeah, I don't know.
But
so what's the bigger story? Or not bigger story, but what will be more interesting to watch? The Big 12 this year trying to hodgepodge all that together, or the SEC next year trying to incorporate Texas and OU?
Oh, I mean, I'm excited for both, just because like obviously, like we love this stuff, and heck yeah, I want to see Texas go to Houston on a like on a crazy night game or something like that. But when they join the league, like every weekend, almost every matchup is going to be appointment viewing. Like in a given weekend, you're going to have like Ole Miss and Auburn, Arkansas and Tennessee, and Oklahoma and Georgia, and Texas is going to play like Auburn or LSU or someone like that, or they're going to play us. Like there's going to be like 2 or 3 like awesome matchups every single weekend, and ESPN owns all of them, so they're going to spread them out throughout the day. It's just going to be one after the other. So, the SEC and Big Ten are really going to battle for viewers, because you're going to get USC Michigan in the middle of the year now, which you wouldn't have gotten until a playoff before. So just super interested to see how all that works out. And I think the Big 12, what's left of it, it is back to 12 teams finally. That's a viable league. Like I still want to watch Cincinnati play BYU, or Baylor and UCF and things like that. Houston and Texas Tech. There's viable teams in that conference, and the champion makes the playoff, and possibly gets a bye. Kansas State is still doing quite well. TCU just made the playoff. So what's kind of on the biggest downside to this whole thing is I don't know what becomes of the Pac-12, and it's kind of ironic that like for so long they were the Pac-10, and now they're back to 10 teams. Even though they were the only conference that ever rebranded, like to update their numbers. Like Big Ten, still the Big Ten. We got 16 teams. Don't care.
Yeah,
but
that
the
was
Pac-10,
always so confusing to me.
But now the Pac-10's back to 10, and like, I mean, there's like Oregon, Washington, Utah. Like they're good programs. They'll figure something out. But I mean, you only got 10 teams. You're way on the West Coast, and all your games are late, and nobody watches them. And I don't know. Like, I don't know if they try to add teams, if they like the Pac-12 commissioner was at an SMU basketball game the other day. They're trying to court SMU. So all I have to say, who knows? Like, I know
Yeah.
the Big 12 wanted to steal some teams from the Pac-12. They may still do that. Like now they got BYU. They could entice a Utah, or Colorado, or something
Mhm.
like that to join. But it's interesting stuff. But I'm glad we're in the seat that we're in because
Yeah, I am too.
we're in the winning team in all this right now. So that's a huge positive.
Yeah, we made that 100-year decision, and it was a good one.
Yep. Thanks, Bowtie.
Yeah, so there's going to be a loser in this whole thing. There has to be. The question is it going to be the Pac-10 or is it going to be the ACC? And I think to your point, I think it's more likely to be the Pac-10. Of course, there are still a lot of households, over on the West Coast. Like,
Oh yeah.
even if they had their own market, that's still a lot of viewership. Still a lot of ad revenue and all that kind of stuff. So I don't think it'll really kill them necessarily, but I can say and I've probably already said it before, but USC and UCLA going to the Big Ten, that was just such a desperation move. It seemed like.
Yeah.
Texas and OU coming to the SEC, it made sense. Geographically it made sense. It made sense for their program, made sense for the SEC. I just don't see that with California teams getting added to the Big Ten. So
To the Midwest.
yeah, it's odd, but they might prove me wrong. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure football. Actually, I know football will be fine, but I mean, I feel bad for the gymnastics and women's basketball and baseball that have to travel, across the country, sometimes for a whole weekend. Like
Mhm.
you're gonna have to leave probably a day early to get there and figure your stuff out on time. Like it's just it's too much. Like I get why they did it. We're gonna make more money. Awesome. Like USC and UCLA probably already had plenty of money, but
Yeah.
they wanted to be. I guess that they were afraid of getting left out. They're like, hey, we got this. We're getting cast this life vest from the Big Ten. Let's hop on it. But I still don't like it by any means.
Yeah, me neither. So going into the 24th season, what do you think? How do you think Texas and OU will fit in the SEC? How do you think they will perform year one?
So it's interesting because from a power rating standpoint, like everyone's power ratings loved Texas this last season, and they had a good season. I'm not going to take it away from them. They had a good season, but they had a generational tailback in Bijan Robinson. They got some great young receivers and things like that, but they're recruiting very well, and they've got some nice pieces from the portal. But when you look at what they played this year, no offense to those teams, but when you trade that for a 9-game SEC schedule, it's going to be tough. Like I'm not saying they're going to go 4-8 or anything, but they're not winning 10 games or maybe even 9 games. It depends on how it shakes out. There's going to be some teams, definitely Auburn that has to play Georgia and Bama in the same year, and I'm hoping that we're one of the lucky ones that gets to alternate those two. But I mean, it'd be great for your off years, in a year where you don't play either one. But it's I don't know. When you look at the recruiting rankings in this past class, Texas was 3rd, OU was 4th. So that's promising for them and their young coaches. But I think they'll be fine in the long run, but immediately, like I don't think either one can come in and compete for the conference.
Well, and so that's where I want to kind of play devil's advocate, right? Because there's two ways to look at this. First is we're sitting in the SEC seat right now saying exactly what everybody said about us and Mizzou in 2011, and both of us had great years in 2012. And so are we putting Texas and OU down, being like, oh yeah, they're just in the Big 12, just like everybody did to us? And are they going to come in and have success out the gate like we did? Or, and this is why I said I'm playing devil's advocate here, because the alternative to that is we played us and Mizzou both played a completely different type of ball than SEC did in 2012. SEC was run it down your throat, run you over,
Eye
hard
formation.
ball, tough football. When we came into the SEC, and we came in with a high-powered, fast-paced offense, and so did Mizzou, and they couldn't keep up. And Nick Saban was throwing hissy fits because of the hurry up, no huddle. But today's SEC isn't the same way, right? Because most of these teams now have moved to the spread and have, adapted to the modern age of college football. So it's a fun quandary to go at, right? Because it's either maybe we're not learning from our history and we're underestimating these Big 12 teams, thinking that they're these terrible teams that are going to come in and, you don't know what the SEC schedule is, and they're going to come in and run the table on us. Or B,
right,
they're going to come in thinking like, oh yeah, y'all are going to underestimate us, and we're going to show y'all we're going to do exactly like A&M did, but better, and then come in and get stomped because it's a different conference altogether than when we moved 10 years ago. So
right.
that's why it's an interesting proposition to me, because I'm not going to underestimate those teams, because at the end of the day, they are good teams. And
for sure.
It's easy for us and as SEC fans to be like, oh yeah, Big 12 teams are, man, they're not all that great. But the case can be made that yes, they are still really good teams,
Yeah.
I
mean, I think, like we like to, or I say we, I take shots at the Big 12 sometimes just because, I mean, it's, if it were on the same level, those teams wouldn't be leaving to join the SEC. but from a competitive standpoint, like I love our 2012 season. I mean, I love Johnny Football. That was, I was a sophomore at the time. It was awesome. But if you go back and look at some of the teams we played, like that was one of the worst Auburn teams of history. That was the John L. Smith Arkansas team. Florida beat us, and like they were pretty solid. LSU beat us. Obviously, we beat Bama. But there's a lot of just kind of, like a handful of teams were just super, super down. And I feel like the league as a whole has attracted some pretty good coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And for the most part, even Vanderbilt is doing better than they have been, since 8 or 9 years ago. But I feel like the conference as a whole is stronger than it was when we joined. Now, we joined in the height of, like Bama and LSU, or, like the big dogs in college football. But since then, I feel like it's just more spread out. Like Bama and Georgia are still great. LSU is really good, but, so is Tennessee now. And, Ole Miss is doing well. Arkansas has been doing well. And I think from a season-long standpoint, Texas, when they've scheduled SEC teams, they've always played them tough. Like they beat Georgia. They played LSU really close the year they won the title. They played Bama close last year, but when you play those good teams, you play them tough, you play them close, but you come up short. Well, then turn around and go play at Ole Miss or go play at Auburn after that when you just had a deflating defeat. That's when it gets tough. Like when all those are in a row, like you don't get the break of a team that you're vastly more talented than. Everyone can hang with you, and it's a grind. It's going to be like for our sake, we better keep recruiting well because so is everybody else. And you got to play 9 of these teams every single year, and it's going to be tough. But I'm pretty excited about it all in all.
Yeah, I'm excited about it for sure. It's and going off of what you're saying there, when they do come over, and they are playing those, there's a back and forth on the point. The case can be made either way. It's either A, that exactly like you said, of yeah, sure, you can play them close 1 week, but you're not getting up next week and playing a same caliber team as you just played last week, but on the flip side of that coin, if you're at a consistent high level all the time and you're not going the ups and downs like that, then that makes you a better team overall,
Right.
and makes you a tougher team. So I think like if I'm a Texas and OU fan, I think there's going to be 2 lessons you're going to learn coming into the SEC, and that's that your team is going to become tougher than what they are now, but you're going to lose games that you don't think that you will, because you're going to come in and you're going to think that, okay, you've been dogging on A&M for being 8-4 in the SEC, but look at all the other teams that are consistently 8-4 in the SEC because we beat each other up. I mean, that's you can't compare Ole Miss to, Kansas. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. And additionally, too, there's more teams, and that's a topic, or that's a point that I don't think a lot of people talk about, because sure, you can point to, well, Vanderbilt is basically Kansas, so that's a moot point. Yeah, but we don't play Vanderbilt every year. You play Kansas every year. So if you have this one team that's the outlier that's not as good, you're not going to play them every single year. So you can't compare that to a team that you do play every single year. And there's not 2 Vanderbilts in the SEC. There's one, but there's more than one in the Big 12. And you play them every single year. So that's, they're going to learn some lessons on that. I think, and when I say they, I mean their fans are going to learn, like, oh yeah, it's not just a surprise loss, because we just randomly lost to Kansas. It's that you're going to go in thinking that, oh, Mississippi State, they're not that tough, like we'll walk all over them. Yeah, play them a couple times, and then you'll start feeling the way that we feel about Mississippi State, where it's like,
go play there at 11 a.m.
Yeah,
with cowbells ringing.
Cowbells. I mean, and that's where that's one thing. Like if you are a Texas and OU fan, like you got to be excited about what you're stepping into in terms of the venues that you're going to go to. You're going to hear a caliber of loud that you're not accustomed to hearing, and which is good for like each of those programs, because as much as I might hate them, I do love the schools ultimately. I do love Texas. I want Texas to be successful because I'm from Texas. I mean, my tax money goes to pay for that school. I don't want it to be a trash school. So at the end of the day, like their stadiums are going to improve as well, and their fan base is going to improve as well. Um, but another question I have, and sorry, I've kind of just been throwing a whole bunch of random stuff out here that we
No, I
didn't
love
plan
it.
for. But what do you think it'll do to their recruiting? Because this is completely and totally a biased thought on my end, and it comes strictly from just empirical data of people that I know. But I have a sense that both Texas and OU fans think that them coming back into the SEC, or them coming into the SEC, means that we're going to go back to recruiting the way we always did, and that they're going to recruit at a higher level than they ever did, and that suddenly now, like, all the Texas kids are going to stay in Texas and go to UT.
Texas.
Yeah, I personally don't see that happening. I want your thoughts on that.
No, I don't see it happening at all. The A&M of today is not the A&M of 2008.
Yeah.
And when this got announced, we talked about that on here. Like, it was so it ended up being so important that we did leave a decade early, before they got here, and we were able to separate ourselves and establish ourselves. Like, hey, like, we are our own national brand, and we have a huge alumni base, and we have a lot of money, and we can go hire good coaches and field good football teams. And back in the day, it was so dysfunctional. Like, if you go read the 100-Year Decision, the book by Arbo and Lofton, he walked into a absolute crap storm of an athletic department, and by the grace of God, somehow got us into the SEC with no athletic experience. Like, he was a astrophysicist professor or something, and just happened to be A&M's president in a very pivotal time, and made a good decision. So thanks for him. But we're a completely different program than we were back then, and I think people don't understand that A&M is bigger than Texas now. Like, have y'all seen our enrollment numbers? Like, not that that's the end all be all, but like, we have like 70,000 plus students, to their 55, which is a respectable number, of course, but we're not chopped liver. We're not going to go back to what we were in the Big 12 just because they're going to be in our conference. And I expect, honestly, all 16 teams in the SEC will probably, except for the ones at the very top like Alabama and Georgia, they're all going to recruit better now because they're going to be on TV, prime time every single week. They're going to be getting more money than ever from their TV deals. And NIL's a thing now. So, like, these deep southern pockets in these SEC schools, like, they can use that now. So that's what's interesting, is like, there's not going to be really any bad teams in this league. And I mean, it's going to be an absolute grind of a schedule every single year, but we're going to get some awesome football games out of it.
Yeah. Well, and that I agree with you wholeheartedly there. Which is why I'm going to address Alante's comment, because he says, you may not believe it, but it is your biggest worry. And I'd agree with that. Like, I would say that in the back of especially long-standing Aggies, Aggies that were around in the 70s and 80s, that you have it in the back of your head of like, oh, dang it, are they going to take away our thunder? But I don't see that. Like you, if that was going to happen to A&M, just because they're coming into the league, now suddenly we're going to go back to being that kind of weird, podunk military school, like if that was going to happen to us just because they're joining the league, why hasn't it happened to Mississippi State? Why does Mississippi State keep having these comebacks and put out people like Dak Prescott and hire Mike Leach and all of that? Why doesn't that happen to some of those other schools in the SEC that are similar to A&M in the past? Because it just doesn't happen in the league. It's sure, you might have some down years, and sure, there might be some years where A&M is going to go 5-7. That's going to happen. But are we going to get to the point that no recruits want to come to A&M and all of that? No, I don't think so.
Yeah, he's not a big Dak fan. That's a whole other topic. We're not going to get into that. But yeah, I think this whole conversation kind of ties to something that I put on our rundown that we talked about before. But to go along with that, the dysfunction from the 2000s, and hiring just disastrous coaches, and just being just all in all dysfunctional. That's kind of gone away, and last year wasn't great, but I want to credit noted Aggie Twitter person, String Says. This is kind of his. I've seen him post about it on TextX and Twitter and other places, but we need to get to a point. I think we're getting there now, where the program is bigger than the coach is. Like, you look at places like Ohio State and LSU, the people that run those programs have it set up to where it doesn't matter who the coach is. Like, the past couple years, I've been like, oh, as long as we have Jimbo, we're fine. Like, Jimbo's a great coach. He's a great leader. He can recruit well and coach well. And as long as we have him, we're set. Well, that shouldn't really be our mindset. Like, we should be like, hey, we're Texas A&M. We have this badass program that we built, and the infrastructure's in place. And it doesn't matter if, you, me, and Hayden are coaching. We're going to have the resources and support to go out and be successful. So
sure,
that's what I think we're trying to get to. And they announced today the 12th Man Foundation Plus, not a streaming service, as it might sound. That'd be kind of cool, though. But it's a way for the average fan, like you and me, to donate our money to the NIL efforts of Texas A&M. They can do this because they are not part of the school. They're very closely tied together, but they're a 501c3. They're separate. They can raise money and pay players, and that's totally legal. Listening to some podcasts today, we're one of the very few that has this kind of setup. So it's kind of sweet for us, because most other booster programs are part of the university and cannot do this, and ours can because it's not part of the university. So what we can do now is, you can donate money of any amount you want to, and you can pick what sport it goes to. So you can say, hey, I love Aggie baseball. I want to, donate $1,000 to help our baseball guys out, because they don't even get full scholarships. So I'm going to help them out. Or, maybe you're, some other rich guy, and you're like, hey, here's $25,000 to the football program. You can do that now. So I feel like when NIL first came out, it was, hey, we have to, have a business or something for these kids to promote. Well, now the foundation is like, hey, give us the money. We'll have them promote for us. And, I don't know. It feels like this is a very far-reaching, very kind of raise the floor type of effort. I'm thrilled about it, because I felt that we were falling behind in this space. And now I feel like I know that our guys at the top are making the efforts to be as good as we can be at NIL, which today you have to be. You cannot fall behind in NIL, or you're screwed. So this is a great thing.
Yeah, I think it's good. I'm kind of surprised that they didn't do it sooner. But to your point about being, the program is bigger than the coach. I think that's what, like, this all ties in. The NIL and everything. It all ties in, because your old Ags will tell you they've been here before. They've hired a Jimbo Fisher before, whenever they hired Jackie Sherrill, and whenever they hired R.C. Slocum, and whenever they hired Dennis Franchione. Like that. That's what they'll tell you is Bear Bryant. We're hiring these these championship level coaches, and then they never did pan out. And Jimbo's just another one in that rung, and we're just going to perpetually be this way. But that's very short sighted from the standpoint, and I'll even say it to you, Alante. I think it's short sighted as well to say that it all comes from championships, because it doesn't. A lot of it comes from facilities and what you can provide to those players. And at the end of the day, our facilities are not what they were when we were in the Big 12. Whenever I first started working for the football team, I mean, that locker room, I thought the locker room was really cool, but now I see pictures of it, and I'm like, I can't even believe that we were a D1 school trying to recruit with that locker room. I mean, it looks like somebody's warehouse. It just is goofy. I mean, I still have some of the stuff in my Aggie room from the old locker room, and I kind of am like getting to the point that I kind of want to throw it away. Like, it's kind of ugly looking, and it's just like when you look at like College Station in 1970, and then you look at College Station in 1990, and then you look at College Station in 2010, how much really changed in those different 20-year periods? How much did College Station change from 70 to 90, and then from 90 to 10? And I'm sure obviously it grew a little bit, and it changed
at a reasonable pace.
But when you go there today, I mean, just from 2010 to today, that's a 13-year period. Wait till we see what it's going to look like in 7 years. But there's a lot of just College Station as a whole that looks completely different than it did. I mean, it's a different town altogether. It's not a little small town that, people are going and hanging out in a back alley and sitting on a front porch singing songs to people that are going, the Presbyterians, as they go to Luby's, like that. It's not that same town anymore. It is a vibrant college town, and you're going to recruit based on that. And you're going to constantly have these teams in the SEC wanting to come to College Station because it is a very fun place to go. And so that's a big key part of it. The NIL is a huge part of it. The question is, how long is NIL going to be as big of a part of it as it is right now? We're in the prime time right now that we should be putting as much NIL work as we can. But he's still on that championship thing.
Yeah.
And I don't disagree with you. Don't get me wrong. At the end of the day, we want to build champions and all of that, but who really cares about a 1974 championship? I mean, do you think that the kids today care anything about that? Because I don't even care about that, and they're half my age, So it's easy for us as adults that we've been into college football for so long and all that kind of stuff, and we remember like, oh man, Johnny, that was so much fun. That was my freshman year of college, and oh, that was great, but okay, whenever that happened, the kids that are graduating high school this year, that are going to graduate in 2023, they would have been 6 years old, 5 years old whenever 2012 happened for A&M. And so what has some of these other teams done? Think about the teams that we really enjoyed whenever we were kids, like Miami and Texas was big during that time.
USC was big.
Yeah. And so even when they're terrible right now, we still think of them as like a good school. And that's what the generation of tomorrow is going to look at is, they're going to look at the program of A&M on even those 8-4 seasons that we're talking about that everybody likes to give us so much grief on. Look at what it's done for our university, and that's the reason why you should give to the 12th Man Foundation,
Yeah.
because it's really vaulted the university that we all love,
Yeah. I do want to clarify, like, I was pointing those teams out as what I want us to be. Like, it's not breaking news that LSU and Ohio State have better programs than we do. Like,
Yeah.
that's a fact that they do have better programs, but
Absolutely.
that's what I want us to strive to be. And I think we're finally, the move to the SEC originally, Johnny Manziel doing what he did, and the success that we've had, like, that is energized and kind of gotten a hold of the people that run this whole thing to be like, hey, we need to commit and, really put our foot down on trying to be, a premier program in college football. Long way to go. Like, just went 5-7, didn't go to a bowl game. So
I'll put it eloquently. We are no longer somebody's little brother, but at the same
That's
time,
true.
we don't have a little brother. We haven't gotten to that point that we're overshadowing other teams, but nobody's overshadowing us. We're looking everybody in the eye at this point. And and I mean, granted, yes, Alabama and Ohio State and these big time winners, they are still a step above, but they're not casting a shadow that's going to keep us in the dark ages.
Right. And I brought up to Hayden in our last episode when we talk about I did a super early, top 25. And I mentioned, I was like, Texas just went and got, this receiver from Georgia, A.D. Mitchell, to transfer there. He's a stud. And we kept losing guys in the portal to, LSU and Ole Miss even. Like, there's guys we wanted that went elsewhere. TCU got a couple of them. That's what was worrying me. I was like, okay, our recruiting class wasn't great. I get that. Like, we had a pretty bum year, but still salvaged it a little bit. But we're missing on transfers that we desperately need. And we got some. Yeah, we got some nice players that we needed. But I was starting to teeter on, hey, is this thing over with? Like, are we screwed in terms of recruiting and transfers in the future? Like, are we never going to get back to, a top 5 class? I think they will. I think this, 12th Man Foundation Plus thing is a really, really big step in that direction. It's another tool in the tool belt of this staff to go and recruit players. And honestly, for whatever reason, like, we're looking pretty good for some of the 2024 kids, but hey, long way to go on that. Long way to go.
Yeah.
But I guess
I think we also had a little bit of a culture shift in terms of our coaching staff. We went from where we were really building, Jimbo was really building up this whole idea of Aggie network and family, and we're going to do it right, and we're going to raise your boy and teach him how to be a man and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that was kind of the essence that he exuberated, and with hiring Petrino and just and even Durkin for that matter too. We're no longer Jimbo and Dickey and Elko, right? Because like that has a whole different viewpoint, and like the view of Jimbo with his current coaching staff right now is more of the Jameis Winston coach Jimbo that went wild, and his wife was running around on him in the locker room, and he was losing control of the ship. That's what it seems like right now, with the coaching staff that he has in place. At least for me, it doesn't seem like the stable Jimbo that we had when we first were here. And what that really comes down to is he's going all in. It's like, you go in, you win this year, and you really set the world on fire. We're going to forget about, we've got a sketchy coaching staff, but if you go 8-4 this year with this staff, we're going to have to keep them on a short leash, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah. So I feel like I could go, or we could go another hour on like 2023, what it means, the schedule, and all that. But I guess to start wrapping up a little bit, early look, what does success look like in 2023? Like you can't limp into 24. Like you can't go 5-7 and be licking your wounds going into the following year with Texas and OU coming and the expanded playoff, there for the taking. So what would make you feel comfortable this season? Yeah, just from a record standpoint to be like, okay, we got it back now. We're rocking and rolling.
I would say 10-2,
Yeah.
because really I think the floor is 8-4. If you go 7-5, I think you start all over. Go get you a whole new coaching staff. I think we're at that point. That's what I meant by short leash, because I mean, this year did not go the way it should have, and it needs to be rooted out. And if you do root it out, well, then you might find that, yeah, you can. I mean, we still have the talent to go 10-2. We still have the talent to win the SEC, but do we have the structure to do that? And I think that'll be very evident. I mean, it's bad enough that you have 1 year with all the talent that we had this past year to go 5-7. I mean, that's bad enough. But if you follow that up with a 7-5 year, you might as well just go ahead and start all over again on your coaching staff.
Yeah.
But I would say success for me this year is 10-2, where I'd be getting excited for 24.
Yeah.
I'd say anything less than that, even 9-3. I'm more of like, more feeling the way that I felt at the end of Sumlin's tenure.
I think with 9-3, like I wouldn't call it success. I'd be like, okay, like that's fine. We're not going to fire you today, but like maybe the ball bounced the other team's way in one or two of those. But 10-2, hell, 11-1. I mean, hell, that may get you in the playoff in a year like this. I mean, like who knows?
Have to.
But
Sure.
I don't want to go for forever on the Knights, but it's just super interesting when you look across the league and like, we somehow beat LSU last year. Like that baffles me. like I would feel totally different if we got blown out that game. I'd be like, okay, like we got a lot of work to do, but we still do. But we beat the team that won the West like fairly convincingly after sucking all year. So that gives me some hope. I feel like having a more veteran team will help. I'm big into the draft right now and like watching like not just how like talented Bryce Young is, but how smart he is. Like he did some freaking yeoman's work for Alabama the past couple of years. If you take him off that team last year, like they're 8-4. I mean, and I know he didn't play against us, but still, like they would have lost to Texas without him. Well, what I'm trying to say is that it's wide open. Like, yeah, we go to LSU. That's going to be tough. We haven't won there in years. We go to Tennessee. They lose. And then Hooker, they still got a decent QB. They got some good portal guys. Bam at home is going to be tough. Auburn's got Hugh Freeze. You cannot lose to Ole Miss 3 years in a row. You can't let that happen. That's just some shooting from the hip on a Wednesday here in February. But man, I'm super excited for spring ball just to see what does our offense look like? Like how are we even lining up? What plays are we running? Like how does Connor look? How does Evan look? All those kinds of things. We're probably maybe 3-4 weeks still away from it, but it's exciting, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I agree. I think we'll have a good year this year. I mean, I'm still hopeful and confident, but short leash. that's going to be. I'm going to probably say that until we play LSU. I mean, it's short leash because if we're going to put all our tokens in, then we got to hope that it pays out. And if not, then all right, let's start over.
Yep. There's something, as much as it would suck right now, there's something cathartic about just burning it all down. And just nope. Let's I love a good coaching search. It's absolute insanity when it happens. Last couple things, Aggie basketball doing very well as of late. They're in a nail biter right now with Arkansas. They just tied it up 42-42. Should be a tournament team. Looking good there. I'm telling you right now, this Aggie baseball team, they start on Friday. They might win the whole thing this year. They are going to be very, very good. I'm super excited to watch that. So we didn't do a lot of other sports last year. We kind of fell off in the off season, but we'll do a little basketball, a little baseball here and there. But hour and 10, that's plenty good for a February pod. We'll be back soon enough. Don't know when or where, but Hayden looks like he's ready for bed, so I figure we better go ahead and get off here.
Told y'all it's been a long day. I said a word in like 40 minutes.
All right. Yeah. But
Just lulling you to sleep.
No, I'm just sitting here being a humble listener of the pod.
Appreciate you guys. He is the newly engaged Hayden Garland. He's Chase Caldwell. Will Stone, thank you so much. We'll see you next time.